Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing dumper feelings when ex moves away. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing dumper feelings when ex moves away. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you are likely wondering how your ex would feel if you made various different decisions. In today's podcast, I'm going to be discussing 3 likely dumper feelings if you physically moved away from where you currently live. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is shock. So dumper feeling number 1 is shock, and this is because if you as a dumpee were to move away from where you're currently living, some of the feelings connected with shock that a dumper would feel is, I didn't expect this. Did I hurt them that bad? Because when you consider a breakup, when you consider what has happened after the decision was made, the dumper is concentrating on their own journey. When you were in a relationship, you were both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for one another. Now, for various potential reasons, this attraction dropped, unfortunately, from the perspective of the person who then became the dumper. When it hit a necessary low point, when their attraction towards you hit that low point, that is when they actioned the breakup and they decided that they needed to move on a different path. And this was because they were not feeling fulfilled. It's very hard to hear, but the truth is they were not feeling fulfilled in the relationship, and they are concentrating on their new journey. So the dumper is actually thinking in most instances that they're going off on their journey, but you are likely to stand still. Whether or not they give this a lot of thought, even subconsciously, they are likely to be thinking that you are going to be doing the same things, living the same life that you are doing. And this is because they're thinking, I need to move on my own journey because this isn't working for me. My now ex, the dumpee, is likely to be doing what they've always done, living the life they always have. So they are likely to think that you as a dumpee are going to stay living where you currently are. You're going to stay put. So if you decide to move away, if you move location, and this doesn't matter if you're just moving town, if you're moving city, or even if you're moving country, it's just the fact that you are doing something different, you are moving away. This is likely to cause the dumper shock. Now, they might hear about this through friends of friends, through family members, through social media. Maybe you've even told them this yourself at the time of a breakup. Maybe you said, look, I'm going to be moving away. Now, if you're thinking, should I reach out to my ex and let them know that I'm going to move away after the breakup is settled? Well, I would say that is something that I probably wouldn't suggest doing in most instances. There are caveats to the suggestions and the advice I give, but in most instances, I always say that if you've been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. So unless you tell them at the time of the breakup, if you're now thinking, well, it's been a few weeks or months since the breakup, shall I reach out and let them know? I would say in most instances you shouldn't let them know. Dumpers have an uncanny ability to find out information anyway, it seems. Like I said, it could be social media, it could be friends of friends. But if you're really thinking, I need to let them know, this is something that perhaps you could discuss on an audio coaching call if you would like to speak with me one-on-one. More details on my audio coaching can be found on my website, www.dateme.tips. And the reason I say this is because unless there is a caveat to my rule that is specially connected to your instance, I wouldn't suggest you do this. Now, I have to give generalized advice. I can't definitively say it's not a good idea not to reach out to your ex and tell them that you are moving, but it will depend on your unique circumstances. So generally speaking, I would say no, don't do it. But maybe if you're really thinking this is something you should be doing, this is where audio coaching could be something which is beneficial to you. But getting back to point number one and the shock that a dumper will likely feel if they find out you are moving, they'll sometimes think to themselves, have I hurt them that bad? They might not realise they've affected your life as much as they have. Of course, they will realise that they're making a decision that you don't want to happen. But they probably think, as I've already said, that you're still going to be living the life that you did, the life which unfortunately was not fulfilling for them. That is one of the reasons why, they've decided to move on a different path, is because the life you lived was not resonating with them in a way which they felt was worth connecting with on the long term. So you can see now why the shock if you decide to move, because they just think you're going to be doing the same old thing. And they might be thinking, gosh, did it hurt them that bad that they've got to move away? All of these thoughts and feelings will move around a dumper's mind. They didn't expect this. They never thought it would ever happen. And they're now potentially worried that they hurt you. Okay, these are all things which potentially could start growing romantic emotional attraction in your dumper's mind. I'm not telling you to move away. I'm not saying you've got to move away to get your ex back. But I'm just saying that changing the status quo, making your life a little bit different to what your ex thought it was, could be something which triggers some changes in their mindset. So now let's get into point number two and the second point of today's podcast about dumper feelings when ex moves away. And point number two is calm. So to counteract point number one, where some dumpers are worried that they've hurt you so bad that you've moved away and they're in shock because they didn't expect this, we have to look at the counter for this. And point number two is the possibility that your ex, the dumper, is feeling calm because they now realise that they're not going to be bumping into you. So one of the worries that a dumper has during a breakup and the aftermath is that they may bump into you, and they are worried about this in most instances because they don't want drama. Like, nobody wants drama in their life. Drama is not good for anybody. And if a dumper is worried that if they bump into you, you're going to get overly emotional, maybe there's going to be an argument, maybe you're going to stay calm, but you're going to be asking them things that they don't want to be asked, you're going to be saying things to them that they don't want to hear, these are things which can cause anxiety. So if you move away, if you decide to move location where you are living, one of the potential feelings that a dumper could have is calm, because they're thinking, I'm not likely now to bump into my ex. I'm not likely to bump into them and have an awkward, stressful, dramatic conversation and or argument. So I would say that we really have to consider points number one and points number two as opposites, but not only that, they could resonate with the same dumper. A dumper might feel shock initially and then move into calm. Or additionally, and opposite-wise, they might feel calm and then start to think, well, actually, when I think about it, this is quite shocking. Did I really affect them that badly by my breakup decision that they've changed their whole life path and moved away from potentially friends and family? So shock and calm could be both felt by the same dumper, or alternatively, some dumpers may feel one, some dumpers may feel the other. And the point of today's podcast is to try to give you a well-rounded thought process about the likely dumper feelings if and when you decide to move away. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you just move to the next town 10, 15 minutes away, or if you're deciding to move country hundreds and thousands of miles away. It can generate the same feelings. So it's not about how far you move, it's about the premise of moving. And like I said, point number two is the potential of the dumper feeling calm, feeling relaxed, feeling almost happy at the thought that you've moved away, because it makes their life a little easier in the fact that they are unlikely to bump into you. They are unlikely to have to go through any potential awkward and dramatic conversations, slanging matches, arguing, whatever you want to call it. If you put yourself in your ex's position, the dumper's position, for a moment, you'll probably be able to see that they are unlikely to want to bump into somebody who is overly emotional and or angry, and that may be you. So although you don't really want to see things from their perspective, if you do for a moment, you can see why, if you move away, they might be feeling calm. So for those of you who was thinking after point number one, right, I'm going to move away, I'm going to shock my ex, just consider that your dumper may instead be feeling the calm. And therefore, you can never guarantee how somebody's going to behave. I always say there's no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. But there's also no guaranteed way of knowing how anybody is going to react to something. All we can do is try to look at the likely scenarios, give ourselves educated guesses, so to speak, based on the research and the knowledge that I've acquired via speaking with hundreds, if not thousands of people by now who have gone through breakups. And when we consider everything, we come to the conclusion that shock and or calm, although opposite, are very important and likely feelings that a dumper may have. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about dumper feelings when X moves away. And point number 3 is panic. So whether or not your ex felt shock, whether or not they felt calm, whether or not they felt both, panic is something which can come to a dumper sometimes suddenly, but often later on after they have found out that X, the dumpee, has moved away. So panic is the feeling of, have I lost them forever? Okay, no one wants to think that their ex is doing better than they are. And sometimes a dumper will see a dumpee moving away and consider the fact that they're now starting a life which is positive, which is maybe even better than they lived before. And they start to question themselves, was I not good enough? I ended the relationship. However, are they now thinking that they are doing better without me? Have they moved because they prefer the new area to this area? Are they living a new life which was better, more exciting, more fulfilling than I gave them? Even though I ended the relationship because I was not fulfilled, maybe they are now living a life even better than we did together. All of these feelings, all of these experiences are possible for dumpers. And the panic can really kickstart the growth in romantic emotional attraction. And if it hits the necessary high point, this is when a dumper may consider reaching out to their ex the dumpee once again. Now, as I said at the start of today's podcast, I suggest in most instances, if you have been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. That is my basic concept of my version of the no contact rule. There are many kind of caveats and exceptions to the rule that you can learn in the podcast, but I've uploaded and connected on my YouTube channel to my no contact rule playlist. I suggest you listen to that all of the way through so you can fully immerse yourself in my version of a rule. But if and when a dumper regrows enough romantic emotional attraction and intrigue to reach out to their ex, the dumpee, this is when you'll be moving into the communication stage. And I believe this is tougher than the no contact rule stage. Okay, you might think it's hard in no contact, but if and when you hear from your ex, the dumper, you need to be making sure you tread carefully but effectively towards hopefully meeting and then reconciling. So if your ex, the dumper, feels panic, if they worry that they've lost you forever, if they think that maybe you are living a better life than you did with them and they're starting to kind of consider that you might be doing better than them now, this can really play into those feelings which develop romantic emotional attraction and create a situation where they may reach out to you, and then you enter that communication stage. And this is when many people require assistance via my audio coaching to try to get through the tricky, choppy waters of a communication stage and get to the meat, which is where you can see if there's a possibility of growing a brand new relationship between you and your ex. If you get back together, this won't be a continuation of your former relationship. Instead, it will be a brand new relationship. Okay, so if you get to that stage, this will be a brand new connection between you and your ex, hopefully built on stronger foundations. But when we consider point number 3 and the panic that some dumpers feel if and when they hear that their former partner has moved away, this, like point number one, this isn't me telling you you've got to move away to get your ex back, but it is just some of the likely feelings that I know dumpers can have that I've collated over many years of being a relationship and breakup coach. So when we consider these 3 likely feelings of shock, calm and panic, although there is an opposite one in there, we can see the shock and panic are similar in a lot of ways, and therefore it's more likely, you might argue, that they will be feeling these types of feelings. But we can't guarantee it. Nothing can be guaranteed. And maybe your ex, the dumper, will instead feel the calm. As I said, people can actually feel all 3. They can evolve through these feelings as time moves forward. And this could be something that your ex goes through before they reach out to you. You as a dumpee need to live your life before you need to do things for you. Okay, your ex, the dumper, is living their life. Your ex, the dumper, is moving on their own path, and you need to move on your path for you and nobody else. Don't move away because you think it could help get your ex back, because there's every chance that unfortunately that won't be the case. You've got to do it only if you feel it is right for you. If you feel you've got to get away because you don't want to bump into your ex, well, that is up to you. That is based on your mental health. Okay, mental health must come first. And if you feel you've got to move away for that reason, then that is a more worthwhile reason than trying to use it as a way to initiate your ex eventually reaching out to you. Maybe that would happen, but we can't guarantee it, and hence you should only move away if it's right for you and your life pushing forward, moving forward every day, improving every day, trying to increase your chance of feeling happiness. And if moving away helps with your mental health, if it gives you new job opportunities, new possibilities of meeting new people, then moving away might be right for you. But please don't do it as a way to try and manipulate your ex, because it might not work. Always remember that with or without your ex, you will have a positive future. Live your life to the full, and always put yourself first when you've been dumped, because it's not being selfish. You need to take care of yourself. You need to show yourself as number one during this time. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.